Now, this was a very interesting episode because there were scenes and parts of this show that I absolutely loved, that were very well done, and I would be remiss and a little disingenuous if I didn't talk about them and highlight them and praise them for what they are. I'm going to ramble a little bit, kind of like a disclaimer, so bear with me. Despite the fact that I've been tearing apart this show episode by episode, I am actually a Star Wars fan. I want this show to be good. I want the Star Wars movies to be good. I'm not tearing this show apart because I hate Star Wars and I hate Star Wars fans. I'm doing it because the main aspect of me covering these episodes is to establish that all this fake praise is just bullshit. Okay? And exposing the bullshit, ridiculous, fake praise this show is getting. But there was actual parts and scenes in this episode that actually deserve praise. And it's going to be nullified because the fact that there are actually good scenes and good parts in this episode is going to be whitewashed by everybody else, because as far as everybody else is concerned, every scene was wonderful, every part was good. So I want to actually highlight excuse me, what was actually good in this episode. It's few and far in between, but I still want to point it out. So let's get to the episode. They talk about the client. I was like, it was like the angels were singing. It's like, oh, and it's like, yes, finally, thank you. That's all I ask. Unfortunately, it took 5 episodes before we actually got to this point, but I'm taking it. Okay, I am so desperate for something good and some story arc and some actual, plot development. I'm happy. I'm taking it. Except then they start talking and they screw it all up again, because Grief ends up contacting the Mandalorian and explains that the client is now a mutual threat. And I'm going, that's great. That's cool. You're actually making sense. You're actually giving a legitimate reason. He's not just showing whatever. Except he's going, the client wants his prize. He wants Baby Yoda. And I'm going, wait a minute. Now you're confusing me here. Because in some episodes, he wants Baby Yoda dead. But in some episodes, he wants Baby Yoda back. You can't have both, show. Okay? You have to pick one. You can't just, go back and forth to whatever the story needs at that time. This is one of the big problems with this show. Okay? Then they need the Mandalorian to kill him. And it's like, you're a guild of bounty hunters. Like, of all the guilds to be able to take care of this situation, would it not be a guild of bounty hunters? Like, how can a guild of bounty hunters not take out the client? This show is forcing the fact that it has to be the Mandalorian, and only the Mandalorian can take out the client. And it's such forced bullshit. I'm sorry. It's such forced plot. Not only that, why is the client still at, oh God, what's the name of the planet? Navarro? Like, why is the client still at the planet? He already extracted what they needed from Baby Yoda. The scientist is done. Why is the client still at the planet, at Navarro? Well, because it's a memorable scene, because there's basically, the Mandalorian retracing all his previous episodes. Again, it's so forced and so simplistic. There's no reason for the client to still be on the same goddamn planet. Okay? The client has imposed despotic rule over his city and has impeded the livelihood of the guild. Okay, now I don't understand if this is Grief being egotistical, going, it's his city. How is it his city? Like, you're just the leader of the, bounty hunter guild. How do you have this power that it's suddenly your city? Not only that, it's impeded the livelihood of the guild. Again, how? Why? You can't just make these statements because you need to make these statements so that you can have the plot go forward. You actually, I know this sounds ridiculous, but you actually have to have meaning and significance to these statements. Now, I know the majority of the people who are fans of this show don't care. Okay? But if that's the case, you can tell them whatever the hell they want. You don't even need to give them an explanation. They don't care. So don't give a half-assed explanation to just mollify people who don't even care about an explanation anyway. Remember episode 6? Didn't need a reason for him to go on the on the job with the mercenaries. Then they land and they talk to Grief and all that stuff, and again, just nothing special. But then they camp and they get attacked solely for two reasons. One, mandatory creature scene, and Grief gets poisoned, and Baby Yoda is able to heal him, and it's like, come on. You just had a scene like not 5 minutes ago that showed that you can actually show Baby Yoda using the Force that makes sense, and then now it's like, oh yeah, but Baby Yoda knows how to heal. It's not like Baby Yoda knew how to do it when he was with the Mandalorian at any time, but it's like, oh, now you're falling back to the goddamn stupid that I hate in the goddamn first place. So then they discussed the plan, and the plan was actually good. I can't believe. Here's the weird thing about this show, is I have to compliment basic writing skills. And I'm sorry, it's just, it's an example of the low effort this show, the writers and the directors are putting into this goddamn show. Okay? So anyway, he goes to get Cara Dune. Now this is one of the highlights and one of the good things about this episode, because we've had the episode to show Cara Dune, and it's like, oh, he's established an ally, he's going for her to help. You see how simple this is? Do you see how simple it is to just write something solid and good and interesting and make sense, and not have so much stupid to force the situation? This is an example. This is simple. This is basic. But this show is just so ridiculous. I actually have to highlight this simple premise as, look how good you can be. So anyway, he talks to Cara Dune, and she's originally, at the start, she's reluctant. But then he establishes that, oh, he's Imperial, and she goes, okay, I'm in. And it's like, well, why? Why is that important? Did I miss something in an earlier episode that suddenly because he's Imperial, she's in? So anyway, they get into the ship and they leave Baby Yoda alone. They go down and they get some talk and they have the talking. And this conversation and the dialogue that they're talking about was good. Was actual interesting character dialogue. And it was like, holy crap, you can write good dialogue. You can establish a good scene. It is possible. Because this episode is littered with them. So I know you can do good scenes. I know you can establish interesting and good dialogue. So it highlights even more when you don't how bad it is. Then we have Baby Yoda peeking down because you have to have the mandatory cute scene. And then, of course, you have Baby Yoda flying the ship. Of course, Baby Yoda's flying the ship. Why is Baby Yoda flying the ship? Oh, because they need an excuse to get Quell. And it's like literally, despite the fact on how cute and how everybody's gonna love and make memes over Baby Yoda flying the ship, the only reason it's so forced because the only reason they have him fly the ship is so that they can have this weak ass justification to get Quell, or I think it's Quell, or yeah, I think it's Quell. It's unnecessary. It really is. But it's a way of, padding time because it's a 35-minute episode and God knows they don't have enough story idea to fill that up. Well, so then we have then they go meet Quill, and again, the conversation and interaction with Quill was just amazing. It was enjoyable. It was plot developing. It was character developing. It was interesting. It wasn't forced. You guys can do this. Like, this episode shows that you guys can write interesting dialogue and have interesting characters. I suddenly now care and am interested in Quell. I'm suddenly now interested in The Mandalorian. Okay? Then we have, again, another callback, IG-11. And, again, his intro and that little backstory thing on how he reprogrammed him. Again, more padding and filler, but, again, I'm not going to complain about it. It just was unnecessary. And it's all about asking Quill to help protect Baby Yoda. So now, Quill is now part of the little entourage. During this little visit to Quill, he asks, why are you so distrustful? Why are you so distrustful of droids? This would have been an incredibly opportune time to go, here's the reason. Except here's the problem. The show doesn't have a reason. The writers don't have a reason why the Mandalorian hates droids. Because they can't give a reason, because then they can't justify excuse me, because then they can't justify when the Mandalorian does and doesn't trust droids, because it's so malleable. Like I said, at this point, the fact that he doesn't like droids has no relevance. So they can't give an actual reason why the Mandalorian hates droids, because then we can hold him to it. So we have to keep the reason he hates droids ambiguous and not discuss it. Then we have one of my second favorite scene in this episode. And that's when the Mandalorian and Cara are arm wrestling. And Baby Yoda uses the Force. And the reason I love this scene is because it's actually explainable justifiable. It works. It makes sense. Because he sees the Mandalorian fighting or struggling against Kara, and is being with it's like being instinctively protective. So it doesn't. I can actually justify it by going, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how he's doing it. It's just that's what he's doing, and he's trying to stop Kara. And I'm going, that's all. You see how easy it is? Do you see how easy it is to be able to make Baby Yoda use the Force in a reasonable, justifiable way that works and makes sense and is like, okay, this is great. I'm sorry, because the whole Mudhorn thing was really ridiculous. That's another thing. Baby Yoda using the Force in this scene was not forced. Do you understand? It was organic. It worked. It made sense. Then we have the tension with because the conversation between Quell and Kara, and then IG-11 showing up. Here's why I love this scene. It was actual tension. Okay? I actually did not know and could not anticipate what was going to happen. It wasn't forced. It was a little forced, but it wasn't anywhere as bad as the conversation in episode 6 with the mercenaries. This was actual tension. This actually had me going, what's going to happen? And so again, I really want to highlight the good of this show, because it does actually have some. Then we get the scene where Greef turns around and shoots the other two bounty hunters and explains how the plan all along was to kill them in the first place. And it's like bullshit. Bullshit, because they had opportune time to kill him, to kill all of them at any time. Okay? They could have easily have established an ambush with, 2-3 dozen bounty hunters and just kill them all. Like, when was this plan to kill Mando and Kara and Quell gonna happen? Like, you were like, by the time you turned around and shot the other two bounty hunters, we could see the town. Like, when was this plan going to take effect? But no, Baby Yoda healed him, so now he changed his mind. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. So this is going to be a little rambly here. They make a plan on how Greef is going to set up a meeting with the client, and then they'll sit down, they'll talk, Mando will shoot them, and then the stormtroopers won't fight back because they won't have a paycheck. This whole scene is to establish that the Mandalorian is apparently the only one who can do this. But if Greef can set up a meeting with the client, and he'll only have 4 stormtroopers, and if you kill the client, the stormtroopers will decide to, join Greef for better employment services, then Greef can at any time set up a meeting with the client, bring 2 or 3 of his bounty hunters, and just shoot the client. Like this whole scene and explanation, like in the future, like when they get to the part where they actually meet the client, it establishes that Greef can at any time kill the client, but you can't. You have to have it that the Mandalorian is the only one that can kill the client. It doesn't work. This whole, and not only that, they force it so that it has to be the Mandalorian, and then the Mandalorian doesn't even kill the client in the first place. It's just so goddamn forced and ridiculous. And you have to have so much stupid just to make... So they make up a plan, and Mando tells Creel to go back to the ship and seal yourself in. And when you're inside, engage ground protocols, and nothing on this planet will breach those doors. Really? Wouldn't that have helped against the Jawas? Oh, writers didn't think of that until this episode, I guess, right? So they go see the client. It's the client and the 4 stormtroopers. And I'm going, well, shoot them! You're good! Like, Kara's armed. Greef is armed. The bracelets on, or the shackles on the Mandalorian can come off. Like, use your whistling birds. Remember the whistling birds? Oh, can't use the whistling bird because that would actually be effective. Worked on 4 stormtroopers before. Then we have my favorite scene in the episode, and that is the client, because he's the best character, he's the best actor, he's got the best dialogue, he delivers his line amazing. The actor's name is Werner Herzog. This entire monologue was just well done, because it actually established story, lore, groundwork on what's going on and how things are working with the Empire and the Republic. This was amazing. I want to highlight this scene because it was just so good compared to the crap I've been getting for 6 other episodes. Unfortunately, we have to wait 7 episodes before we get, actual backstory and lore and stuff like that, but whatever. Then they're about to open the prim, and I'm thinking, hey, this would be a good time to actually do something. No. He gets a phone call. I mean, what is this? Seriously, he open up the prim. Oh, just a second later, and they would have been exposed. And he gets a call from Moff Gideon, and he goes, "You might want to check to make sure." And then all of a sudden, you have stormtroopers outside and just shooting shooting the entire safe house. I was like, well, why? Oh, needed to get rid of the client and the stormtroopers inside the safe house. Not like any of them hurt or hit any, Kara or Mando or Greef. Then all the stormtroopers show up, and I wrote down. So you see all the stormtroopers show up, and I'm going, gee, wouldn't it have been great if the other Mandalorians would show up, and then that would have been a cool battle scene? Nah, too bad they had to waste it with those stupid bounty hunters. So then the 2 stormtroopers are able to link into the Mandalorian's comm. How? Why? And then they go after Quell. Well, how do they know where Quell is or where the ship is? They're not fobs. So they go. They listen in on the comm, going, "Quell, get to the ship." Well, Quell was already going to the ship. So when they intercepted the comm, it's not like he was going to the ship. Then it doesn't make sense that they hear the message of go to the ship where you were already going. Just hurry up now. And then the 2 stormtroopers on the speeder bikes know exactly where to go. So then Moff Gideon makes his grand entrance. Not going to complain. But then Moff shows up, and you see him walk. I happen to be a Stormtrooper fan. Okay? Because the whole idea of how the stormtroopers are, lousy shots and ridiculous is debunked in the first movie. Okay? They're not bad shots. They're not stupid. They're not idiots. But in this scene, so Moff is walking through, and you see the stormtroopers scattered all around. Not in a formation, but just scattered all around. And they're all aiming at the safe house. That doesn't even make any sense. Because if they all start firing, they're just going to hit the stormtroopers that are in front of them. If they start firing, they're going to eliminate their own troops. I know it's a cool shot and it's a nice little scene of, Moff going through, but it's like they're all scared. It's just so stupid. Then he goes to the Mandalorian. You have something I want. And I'm going, no, they don't. They don't have anything in there that you want. In fact, you already established that. Moff goes, in a few moments, it will be mine. So he knows that they don't have it. He knows that Quell has it. How he knows Quell has it, but then you have to wait until the stormtroopers intercept the comm to then go after Quell. This is such a mishmash of stupid and ridiculous. And then Quell dies. Okay, I'm not glad that Quell dies, but it actually showed consequences. It actually showed, there's loss in this. So, I'm not glad that Quell died, but I'm glad that they're showing the fact that they are willing to kill people, even though it's a secondary character. This episode had scenes that I really, really liked, and it was worse because it was also mixed with so much goddamn stupid, whereas the previous episodes barely had any good worth even talking about. And that's why I'm saying this was an interesting episode, because it was just, there was good and bad, and it just drove me nuts, because before it would be, oh god, let me just laugh at this, let me just poke fun at it because there's just nothing. But here is like, oh wait, good! No, it sucks. Oh good! No, it sucks. Oh, it's good! Anyway. All I know is, we finally got to meet the client again. We got to meet Moff Gideon. Obviously in episode 8, we're gonna get some answers. That's the only thing I'm actually looking forward to. I think it's going to get to the point now where I'm going to have to take the good with the bad. And I'm still going to trash the bad, but I am going to praise the good. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm out of here. I gotta do the goddamn Rise of Skywalker movie. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, I'm out of here. See ya.